Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. I am so excited that spring is here. I do love winter, but spring is just so beautiful. I love all the flowers. Don't love the allergies, but above all, I love all the birds that come out this time of year. We have so many in this community, and we've really been missing them on our walks lately. But they're slowly starting to come back, and I just thought, what a beautiful way to start off the season by giving back to nature. It just gives so much to us. I'm going to build it out of some cedar picket fencing that I use to build the blind system on the back patio. So that wood I already have, and some nails and some wood glue, maybe some hot glue. Obviously at this point I haven't built it yet, so I'm not really sure how this is going to turn out. Excuse me while I grab my very professional and embarrassing render. This is what I am hoping it's going to look like. There's my little cut sheet on top. It's going to be a series of 5, I believe, houses, and I'm just going to stick all those together and then put them on a base. So we'll see how this goes. So let's go to the backyard. Since I only had cedar picket fencing on hand, I needed to fuse 2 boards together using a mixture of sawdust and wood glue to create the base. This took about a day to fully dry. Once that was done, I could cut it down to size. I knew when I bought the saw that I probably should have spent the extra money to get one that telescopes. Since I didn't, I'll have to make multiple cuts because I'm limited on my depth. Next, I'll take the fencing and get measurements for 3 across, since there will ultimately be 3 houses in the back. I'll cut the base a little larger than that measurement because these boards never seem to be perfectly straight, and I can always come back and trim things down if necessary. I had originally planned for this to sit on top of my outdoor fireplace mantle, so I'm cutting the base down to make sure it would fit. Spoiler, I changed my mind on the location. This only affected the size of the smaller houses in front, making the cuts a bit more tedious, but I actually prefer the end result. There were a few times I thought using my Dremel tool would be the easier route, but more often than not, the jigsaw ended up making the cuts faster and easier. Now we can get started on building the actual houses. Don't worry, I'll only walk you through the process for this main house. It's unfortunately not very interesting to watch, and besides the measurements being different, this should give you the general idea. If you're interested in making one identical to mine, I've left the measurements in the description. Once we've cut the 4 walls down to size, we'll find the center on 2 of those boards. Then, using my speed square, we'll mark 45 degrees from that center point and cut off the corners, giving us a shape that resembles a house. Taking measurements from the base to the bottom of the triangle will give you the correct height for the side walls. The main door will be arched, so after finding the center, I'm using this large round fastener I had left over from swapping out my faucets during the bathroom makeover. It just gives me something perfectly round that I can trace over. I'll finish off the left and right sides of that marking with my speed square to give myself a straight line to follow. Again, you could probably achieve most of this cut with just a jigsaw, better yet, a bandsaw if you had one. But I chose to make a series of smaller cuts to create the arch. I did have to come back and sand everything down to smooth it out. It won't be perfect, but the birds won't mind. To achieve perfectly round windows, I used a 1.5 inch hole tool that helps me do exactly that. For the interior walls, I'll need to create doors so that the new tenants can move from room to room with ease. Since these won't be visible, I've chosen a much simpler rectangular cut. I can go straight in with the jigsaw since this is a simple opening, making relief cuts at the top until I can square everything off. Now we can start assembling the walls. I'll be using wood glue for an incredibly strong bond in the end, and securing everything with brad nails while that glue has time to cure. When it comes to the roof, one side will need to be half an inch shorter. This allows one piece to sit on top of the other, and from what I understand, it helps keep rain out better than a mitered seam. If you're anything like me and don't like the look of this overlap, don't worry, it won't be visible once we're finished. The only thing that changed with the medium-sized houses is that their walls need to be beveled at a 45 degrees for the roof to sit properly. I'm realizing now that I haven't foraged any tree bark, which I'll need later, so I'm going to take the pups for a walk and see what we can find. I really wanted this birdhouse to have some color, and I wasn't sure if staining the wood would be harmful to the birds. Instead, I used a Japanese fire hardening technique that helps resist water, prevents rot, and deters pests like insects and fungus. Though, cedar is naturally insect repellent to begin with. Now we can finally start fitting everything together. I'll again be using wood glue for ultimate strength, and hot glue to give me an immediate hold while things set. Once I can see that my spacing looks right and everything is lining up, I'll start nailing the front two houses in place. The back row will go in last in case there's any overhang from uneven boards. It won't be noticeable in the end. I also made sure to feel around for any accidental protruding nails so we don't turn this into a torture chamber for the birds. Above the door, we'll add another small roof just for a little extra visual interest. Finally, we'll add a small landing pad to the side windows. Taking the bark I found on our walk, and my Dremel tool, which is perfect for this, I'll cut strips of bark to line the perimeter of the roofs as well as the base. I'll secure these with Gorilla Hot Glue and trim off the excess using the Dremel. I spent a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to display this, whether it would sit on a stand or appear to float, and I ended up using a canvas hanging kit I previously used when I built the art piece above my sofa. This will help the birdhouse blend into its surroundings since there won't be any visible support underneath. I came across this mossy runner at Michael's that's flat and bound to a mesh backing, which makes it perfect for projects like this, or maybe even a tablescape. I'll be securing this with an all-weather construction adhesive to make sure it holds up in the elements. This makes me want cake. The rest is pretty straightforward. I'll lay the mat on top, press everything firmly into place to make sure it contacts the adhesive, and trim away the excess. I found these tiny terracotta pots, also at Michael's, and thought they'd be perfect for holding a little bird feed. Apparently, this particular food isn't loved by much other than the fowl variety. I'll cut small openings in the moss so the pots can adhere directly to the base. Folding the mat in half shows me exactly where to cut the second hole so both sides are perfectly aligned. Finally, we'll finish things off by taking a little hot glue and some of the leftover moss to line any edges we've trimmed. This helps disguise the mesh backing and gives everything a more natural finish.